You know those embarrassing dad stories that everyone has? Well, mine trumps them all. I swear, my dad is like a character straight out of a sitcom, except it's my life, and there's no laugh track to drown out the mortification. It all started one bright Saturday morning when we decided to go to the mall. Simple, right? Just a family day out. But when dad is involved, nothing is ever simple. We hadn't even made it past the parking lot when the chaos began. A woman, probably in her mid-40s, perfectly normal looking, walked by our car as we parked. Before I could even unbuckle my seatbelt, Dad was out of the car and striding over to her like a man on a mission. "Excuse me, miss, you dropped something," he called out. The woman looked around, confused. "Oh, what did I drop?" "Your smile, darling. Don't worry, I'm here to give it back to you," Dad said, with the cheesiest grin on his face. I could feel my soul leaving my body as I watched this play out. The woman, bless her heart, just smiled awkwardly and sped up her pace, probably wondering if she needed to call mall security. I thought it was over. But oh no, this was just the beginning. Inside the mall, Dad was like a kid in a candy store. Every woman who crossed our path was greeted with a wink, a compliment, or, God help me, a line straight out of a bad rom-com. At the food court, while we were waiting for our order, Dad spotted a group of women at the salad bar. He turned to us and said, "Watch and learn, kids," before strutting over like he was auditioning for a James Bond role. "You know, I was going to get a salad, but now I'm torn," he said, leaning on the counter in what he probably thought was a suave manner. "Because I've already found the finest greens in the room." One of the women, clearly unimpressed, raised an eyebrow and said, "Aren't you a little old for this?" Dad, undeterred, shot back, "Age is just a number, sweetheart. But you're timeless." I was ready to sink into the floor. My mom, who had been pretending to look at the menu board to avoid the scene, finally stepped in. "Harold, can you stop harassing the customers and come back to the table?" she said, loud enough for half the food court to hear. Dad chuckled and waved off the rejection as he sauntered back to us. "She's just playing hard to get." I could barely eat my lunch after that, but Dad was as carefree as ever. I thought maybe we could get through the rest of the trip without incident, but deep down, I knew better. Our next stop was the department store. Mom needed some new clothes, so we headed to the women's section. Bad idea. As soon as we got there, Dad's radar for potential flirting targets went into overdrive. He spotted a saleswoman straightening a rack of dresses and made a beeline for her. "Excuse me, miss, I'm trying to find something for my wife, but I'm distracted by how stunning you look in that uniform," he said, as if that was a perfectly normal thing to say. The saleswoman gave him a blank stare. Thanks. Can I help you with something?" "Yes, you can," he said, lowering his voice to what he probably thought was a seductive tone. "By letting me take you out to dinner." "Dad, no," I hissed, grabbing his arm and trying to pull him away. But he wasn't done. "I'm serious. I'm a great cook. How do you feel about spaghetti? I make the best meatballs this side of Italy." At this point, the saleswoman looked like she wanted to crawl under a clothing rack and hide. My mom finally had enough and marched over, yanking Dad by the ear like a misbehaving toddler. "Harold, if you don't stop this right now, I swear I'm leaving you here," she said, her voice dripping with exasperation. "But honey, I was just..." "No buts, Harold. Do you want to get kicked out of the mall? Again?" I could see the realization dawn on Dad's face as he remembered last Christmas, when he got a little too friendly with Santa's helpers and we had to leave in a hurry. He finally relented and allowed himself to be dragged away. But the worst was yet to come. On the way home, we stopped at a gas station. Dad went inside to pay while we waited in the car. After a few minutes, I saw him chatting up the cashier, a young woman who couldn't have been more than 25. I knew we were in trouble. When he came back to the car, he was holding a bouquet of gas station flowers. "Dad, what are you doing with those?" I asked, dreading the answer. "These," he said, grinning. "Oh, I just thought I'd surprise your mother." My mom looked at him suspiciously. "And who did you charm into giving you those?" Dad's grin faltered. "Well, I may have mentioned that it's our anniversary." "It's not our anniversary," Mom said flatly. Details, details, details." Dad waved it off, handing her the flowers. "It's the thought that counts, right?" Mom just sighed, shaking her head as she took the flowers. "Harold, you're impossible." As we drove home, I realized something. No matter how embarrassing, how cringeworthy, how downright absurd Dad's flirting could be, it was part of who he was. And somehow, in his own ridiculous way, he always managed to make us laugh, even if we wanted to strangle him half the time. So yeah, my dad is the most embarrassing womanizer you could ever meet, but he's our embarrassing womanizer. And at the end of the day, that's what makes him so unforgettable.